People who don't talk much are more powerful than you think. Not because they are trying to look mysterious, not because they believe they are better than everyone else, and not because they have nothing to say. The truth is, quiet people often have a kind of power most people don't notice at first because it does not announce itself. In a world where everyone is trying to be seen, heard, liked, followed, and understood, silence can look like weakness. If someone does not speak much, people assume they are shy, insecure, or uncomfortable. But psychology shows that silence is not always insecurity. Sometimes silence is control. Some people talk because they are comfortable. Some people talk because they are nervous. And some people stay quiet because they are watching everything. They notice the tone behind a sentence. They notice who interrupts who. They notice who changes when certain people enter the room. They notice the small shifts louder people often miss because they are too busy being part of the noise. This is one hidden strength of people who don't talk much. They observe before they reveal. They don't give everyone instant access to their thoughts, emotions, or real personality. They let the environment show itself first. And that makes them harder to manipulate, harder to impress, and harder to fool. People often underestimate quiet people because they confuse silence with emptiness. But silence is not empty. Sometimes it is full of analysis. While others speak just to fill the air, quiet people are collecting information. They are studying patterns. They are deciding who feels genuine, who feels forced, and who is only performing. This is why quiet people can seem calm in situations where others become reactive. They are not calm because they feel nothing. They are calm because they do not let every feeling turn into a reaction. That is emotional power, the ability to feel something without immediately giving it control over your words, face, or behavior. Most people reveal themselves too quickly. They say too much when they are angry. They over-explain when they feel misunderstood. They try to prove themselves to people who were never really listening. But people who don't talk much understand something important. Not every situation deserves a response. Not every opinion needs correction. Not every person deserves access to your energy. That is why their presence can feel different. They are not always trying to dominate the room, but somehow people notice them. Because when someone is not constantly speaking, their words become more valuable. When they finally say something, people listen differently. Their voice carries weight because it has not been wasted on every impulse. There is also power in not needing constant approval. Many people talk more than they want to because they are afraid of silence. They are afraid people will think they are boring. They are afraid that if they stop performing, they will stop being accepted. But quiet people often reach a point where they would rather be misunderstood than fake a personality just to belong. That does not mean they never care. It means they have learned to choose themselves quietly. They do not need to prove they are interesting to everyone. They do not need to be the loudest person in the group. They are comfortable letting people think what they want, because the people who truly understand them will not need a performance. And that is something many people do not realize. Quiet people are not always quiet everywhere. Around the right people, they can be funny, intense, thoughtful, playful, and surprisingly expressive. Their silence is not their whole personality. It is their filter. It is how they protect what is real from places that do not feel safe enough to receive it. Psychology often talks about psychological safety, the feeling that you can express yourself without being judged, mocked, punished, or misunderstood. For people who don't talk much, this matters deeply. They are not unwilling to open up. They are just careful about where they open. Because they know words can be used against you. They know vulnerability in the wrong environment can become regret. So they wait. They listen. They test the room. They pay attention to how people treat others when there is nothing to gain. They notice whether someone truly listens or only waits for their turn to speak. They notice whether kindness is real or only performed. And once the environment feels safe, they slowly show more of who they are. This is not weakness. This is discernment. Another reason quiet people are powerful is that they often have a stronger relationship with their inner world. When you are not constantly pouring your thoughts into every conversation, you spend more time understanding them. You ask yourself what you really think. You notice what you really feel. You become less dependent on outside noise to tell you who you are. And that kind of self-awareness makes a person difficult to control. Because if you know yourself, you are less likely to be pushed by pressure, trends, attention, or group approval. You can stand in a room full of opinions and still hear your own mind. But quiet people do have one problem. Because they don't explain themselves often, people create stories about them. They get called cold when they are just careful. They get called rude when they are just reserved. They get called boring by people who never made them feel comfortable enough to be interesting. And after a while, many quiet people stop correcting those assumptions. Not because the assumptions are true, but because people who judge too quickly usually do not listen deeply anyway. The real power of quiet people is not that they are silent, it is that they are selective. They choose when to speak, where to invest energy, and who gets access to the deeper parts of them. They understand that attention is valuable, energy is valuable, words are valuable. And once you understand the value of something, you stop giving it away carelessly. So when someone says, "You don't talk much," they may only be seeing the surface. They may be seeing someone who refuses to perform comfort they do not feel. Someone who listens more than they reveal. Someone who would rather be quiet than fake connection. Because people who don't talk much are not powerless. They are often the ones paying the closest attention. And in a world addicted to noise, the person who can stay silent, stay aware, and stay true to themselves has a kind of power most people will never understand.